Hello, hey again, it's me. Welcome back to my channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So my name is Michelle and this is The Pipeline. This is a YouTube channel centered around a blog, link in the description, that you all can access and read. And today we're going to be continuing with our series about boundaries. So in our last video, we spoke about boundaries within ourselves and wanted to make sure that we enforce those boundaries. So today we're going to be talking about boundaries in terms of friendships, family, and relationships. So as discussed in our last video, boundaries by definition are a line of demarcation that is meant to protect something that is within those boundaries. We all have things that we want to protect, whether it's our mental health, our emotional well-being, our time, our energy, all those types of things. We have boundaries to protect those type of things. So this is why I discussed the need of having boundaries within your own self first and foremost. We teach people how to treat us because we as people are very, very observant. Think about when you were a kid, right? You learned a lot of things, not necessarily by what people said, but what they did. You copied your parents, you copied your older siblings if you had them, or you just copied other people in your life, and you learned a lot of those behaviors just through simply seeing someone else do it. So much of what we learned is gathered and we assimilate to what we consider to be the acceptable behavior. When you communicate through your actions how you want to be treated, people will comply. I know there is a lot of information about boundaries, but today I kind of want to narrow down my focal point into discussing the difference in between unhealthy boundaries and healthy boundaries. I'm going to point out a few key differences that I've seen just through my interactions. I do want to put a disclaimer. I am not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I did not study any of that in school. I am just a person on the internet who loves people and who loves personal development, and that's it. So please do not take my words as that of a therapist. It's important to get your own therapist, to have your own counselor. So I would encourage you all to go and do that. But we are going to talk about boundaries in terms of having healthy boundaries and unhealthy boundaries. So going on to unhealthy boundaries, the kind that we don't want. What does an unhealthy boundary look like? So one thing I did think of is these are boundaries that are coming from a place of trying to protect an area that you haven't dealt with yet. A lot of us can, have instances with fear, with abandonment, with rejection, and sometimes we form boundaries to overcorrect our hurt, or sometimes as a result of that hurt, we don't have enough boundaries. I can give you all a personal example. I used to struggle with rejection. I did not like being rejected or feeling rejected. So sometimes I would have a really hard time saying no because I wanted everyone to like me, basically. I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted to be Miss Congeniality. And in reality, that's an impossible task, right? Not everyone is going to like you, and that is okay. And also too, if people dislike you for saying no to something, you kind of have to ask yourself, well, what type of relationship was that anyways? So sometimes some of those boundaries are formed as a result of fear, as a result of rejection, as a result of abandonment. For instance, another example is that you could have this boundary or expectation that every time you call a friend or every time you call someone, a significant other maybe, you expect them to answer the phone and you feel really upset when they don't. That is kind of an unreasonable expectation, and that could be due to a boundary that you set so that you will never feel rejection again. So sometimes we have to ask ourselves, are these boundaries that we're setting, are they coming from a place of hurt and pain? And if so, that's not a healthy boundary. So a second hallmark of unhealthy boundaries is you freak out whenever they're violated. If someone violates a boundary, let's say leaning on our second example in which you expect your phone calls to be answered all the time and someone doesn't answer the phone and you just freak out, like you spiral, like you become unhinged. That kind of offsets your day. You're anxious, you're fixating on that boundary is coming from an unhealthy place. We cannot expect people to prop us up. We cannot expect people to basically be responsible for our emotional well-being. No one should have that much power over your life. Think about it in this way. If your boundaries or your expectations are relying upon other people doing things, people are going to miss the mark. People are going to tick you off. And you're therefore putting your own emotional well-being in the hands of humans. No one is ever going to be perfect. No one is ever going to not disappoint you. The only person or being that can do that is God and Jesus Christ. Those are the only perfect beings. Everyone else is bound to fail you at some point. So a third hallmark of unhealthy boundaries is the fact that they can be one-sided. You expect one person to adhere to your boundaries, but you don't adhere to their boundaries. An example of this would be having debates, heated discussions, arguments, things like that. For instance, you could be someone who is not okay with yelling. You don't like people being yelled at you. You don't want to be disrespected. Completely understand. I'm also like that too. I don't like being yelled at, nor do I like being disrespected. And my boundary is that when it comes to those types of conversations, do not yell at me and do not disrespect me. But the key is I ensure that I also follow through on my end of that too. If I have communicated this boundary to you that I do not like being disrespected or yelled at, I will ensure that when it comes to working with that other person or talking with that other person, I also don't disrespect or yell at them. I've seen situations in which, somebody can talk to you any type of way and just be going very crazy at the mouth. But then when you, at the slightest tinge of you raising your voice or communicating with someone passionately, they hang up the phone. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's hypocritical. That is just not the way healthy relationships, healthy boundaries work. So now we've talked about unhealthy boundaries, and these are only a few examples, things that I thought of. There's a lot other hallmarks out there. Unhealthy boundaries can be having too stringent or too rigid of boundaries in which you are unflexible and you almost have a unrealistic expectation of life and how it goes. And it can also range from having no boundaries at all, in which you let people rock all over you and you never advocate for yourself and what you need and what's healthy. Again, this is why I stress the importance of having your own internal boundaries and enforcing those things within yourselves, so that when it comes to these type of relationships, it's easier, it's seamless for you to have boundaries in these areas. So going on to healthy boundaries, the kind that we do want. So here is one hallmark of a healthy boundary. So these types of boundaries are coming from a place of self-care, self-respect, and a desire to honor yourself and honor the other person. An example with this would be, for instance, me. I don't cuss. I don't like cussing. I don't like hearing it. I know that I'm in my 30s, but I still listen to the clean version of music. I don't care. There are even certain songs I won't even bother listening to because it's just so laden with cuss words. It's just not me. And I don't cuss in conversation at all. I don't like hearing it. So I have communicated to people in my life that, hey, when you're around me, I prefer that you not cuss. And they are okay with that. And they respect that boundary and they honor it. Now, that's coming from a place of self-respect, self-care, and self-regulation. So that's important. So those things are important to keep in mind when it comes to healthy boundaries. Where are they coming from? Is it coming from a place of self-respect, a place of wanting to honor myself and honor other people? I'm saying that, hey, for me to you to have a relationship when you're in my presence, I would prefer that you not say these words. So it's coming from a place of love and respect. And it's not coming from a place of control. I think that's important to realize when it comes to healthy boundaries. So another hallmark of healthy boundaries is that you don't freak out or fall apart whenever they're violated. That you are able to simply communicate displeasure and you keep it moving. An example of this would be maybe there's some topics that you don't like discussing, maybe around friends or family, or your significant other perhaps. And all you can really just do is just say, hey, I would prefer not to talk about that. I would like to keep that private. And that's really it. You don't have to freak out or fall apart. You just communicate that boundary and you keep it moving. If they violate it, you adjust yourself accordingly, whether that means further discussion, whether that means ending the relationship. You just have to do what is appropriate at that time. That's simply it. It doesn't require a lot of shouting, getting upset. It just requires consistent, confident communication. And I think that that's important to keep in mind when it comes to discussing healthy boundaries. And so the third one is that you respect other people's boundaries. Like mentioned earlier, it is very hypocritical to have boundaries for other people and to not uphold those boundaries on your end as well. So the best situations are when both parties are working to maintain these boundaries and ensure that the other party feels safe and respected. That just comes with clear, consistent communication. Hey, I didn't really like when this happened. Oh, I apologize, I won't do it again, and vice versa on the other side. So just to summarize, boundaries are important because it promotes safety and respect in relationships. We should strive to honor all boundaries, internal and external, to promote our well-being. So my encouragement to you all is to connect with yourself, identify your internal boundaries, enforce those, get really good at enforcing those, and then continue to expand with that with forming your external boundaries. Enforce those, communicate them respectfully, and also reciprocate and uphold the boundaries of others. So that is it for today's video. Like I mentioned, I do have a blog and you all are welcome to go ahead and read it. The link is in the description box as well. I do have a few other videos on my channel. I'm still working on getting more content out there, so I'm excited to continue to connect with you guys. If you guys ever want to chat via email, my email information is on my website as well. And I am just so grateful that you all took time to watch this video. And like, comment, subscribe. Comment what are your thoughts about internal boundaries and external boundaries. I would love to hear from you all. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.